John Miller wiped his sweaty palms on his formal uniform pants. The massive chamber of the Galactic Council rose around him like a cathedral built for giants. Thousands of alien delegates filled the circular rows, each species stranger than the last. Some had too many eyes. Others had no eyes at all. Some floated in liquid tanks. Others needed special atmosphere chambers to breathe. Remember, Ambassador Miller, do not speak unless spoken to, whispered Carol, his alien relations advisor. And whatever you do, stay at least 10 feet away from the Voidfang delegation. John nodded, trying to look confident. Earth had only joined the galactic community 3 months ago. This first official council meeting could decide humanity's future among the stars. The council speaker, a tall blue being with 4 arms, tapped a glowing rod against the floor. We recognize the human delegation from the planet Earth, a level 3 civilization recently achieving faster-than-light travel. John stepped forward and bowed as practiced. The people of Earth are honored to join this great council. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Most seemed friendly enough, but John noticed several delegations watching with cold, calculating eyes. Proceed to your assigned seating, the speaker directed, pointing toward an empty section near the back. John walked carefully, following the glowing path on the floor. The chamber was hot, and the gravity felt slightly stronger than Earth's. As he passed between 2 delegations, something large and dark moved in his peripheral vision. A massive creature stepped into his path. It stood over 7 feet tall with black scales that seemed to absorb light. Its head featured a crown of bony plates, and its mouth, filled with teeth like daggers, could easily swallow John's head whole. Yellow eyes with vertical pupils studied him with predatory intensity. The chamber went silent. Even the speaker froze. John recognized the species from his briefings. Voidfang, the deadliest predators in the known galaxy. A species so dangerous that they weren't invited to join the council. They were given seats so others could keep watch on them. The Voidfang lowered its massive head, plates extending in what John's training identified as a challenge display. Everyone in the room seemed to hold their breath. Security guards reached for weapons. In that moment, John's mind went blank. All his diplomatic training vanished. Instead, a childhood memory surfaced. His grandmother's grumpy old cat, how it would bump its head against him when it wanted attention. Without thinking, John raised his hand and gently scratched the Voidfang behind its raised crest plates. Carol gasped. Someone screamed. Security forces raised their weapons. The Voidfang went completely still. Its yellow eyes widened, then slowly narrowed. Its plates fully extended, then relaxed. And then, from deep within its armored chest came a sound, a deep, rhythmic rumbling that vibrated the floor beneath John's feet. "What is happening?" The speaker demanded, voice shaking. "What has the human done to Ambassador Christ?" A tiny, insect-like delegate scuttled forward. "Impossible. The Voidfang is making the pleasure sound." No recorded instance exists of a Voidfang displaying contentment to a non-Voidfang. The massive predator leaned into John's touch, the rumbling growing louder. Its eyes closed halfway in what looked eerily like pleasure. Where I come from," John said nervously, continuing to scratch the spot that seemed to please the creature. "We call this purring." The word purring echoed through the translator systems in 100 different languages. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Carol approached cautiously. "Ambassador Miller," she whispered, "do you realize what you've done? The Voidfang have eaten diplomats for lesser offenses than touching them. But this one, it likes you." The Voidfang finally pulled away, gave John what might have been a respectful nod, and returned to its delegation. Every eye, stalk, and sensory organ in the room remained fixed on the human who had somehow petted the most dangerous predator in the galaxy, and lived. 7 billion views in 1-day cycle. Carol showed John the display screen. "You're the most famous human in the galaxy right now." John Miller groaned and put his head in his hands. The small Earth embassy on Station Alpha buzzed with activity. Staffers rushed back and forth with data pads. Communication consoles blinked with incoming message alerts. "I was just trying not to get eaten," John said. "Well, instead you've changed interstellar politics forever," Carol replied. "Look at this." The screen showed footage from the council chamber. From this angle, John could see how the other ambassadors had reacted. Many had backed away in terror. Some had dived under their seats. The speaker had actually frozen in mid-word, mouth hanging open. "Earth Command is sending Senior Ambassador Diane Walsh to handle the situation," Carol said. "She'll be here tomorrow." John nodded. Diane was a 20-year veteran of Earth's diplomatic corps. If anyone could fix his mistake, she could. A loud chime rang through the embassy. "Speaking of diplomatic situations," Carol said, checking her pad, "the Voidfang delegation is requesting a private audience with you." John felt his stomach drop. "With me? Why?" "They won't say. But they've never requested a private meeting with any species before, ever." The meeting room was kept extra warm and dimly lit, as the briefing materials suggested Voidfang's preferred. John sat alone at the table, trying to look calm while his heart pounded. The door slid open. 3 Voidfangs entered. John recognized the one in front, the ambassador he had petted. Its scales seemed to swallow the light, creating a walking shadow with gleaming yellow eyes. "Ambassador Christ," John said, standing and bowing slightly. "Thank you for coming." The translator device on the table buzzed. "You are the first non-Voidfang to speak my name correctly," came the rumbling voice. Another surprise. The 3 predators circled the table, moving with graceful power. John reminded himself these creatures had evolved as apex hunters on their homeworld. "We have questions," Christ said, settling into a crouch across from John. "How did you know?" "Know what?" "The sacred spot. The crest touch is reserved for those we trust completely. Yet you touched without fear. How?" John swallowed hard. "I didn't know it was sacred. On Earth, we have animals that enjoy being petted in similar places. It was just instinct." The Voidfangs made a series of clicking sounds that the translator didn't catch. "We have studied your species since your first radio broadcasts," Christ said. "You are prey-sized, yet you fear so little. You walk among predators as equals. This is not normal behavior in the galaxy." Before John could respond, the embassy alarm sounded. Carol rushed in. "Ambassador, you need to see this." On the large screen, a Voidfang battlecruiser materialized near Station Alpha. Sleek and black, bristling with weapons, it dwarfed the other ships nearby. "The Imperium has sent a royal vessel," Christ said, sounding pleased. "The Supreme Matriarch wishes to meet the human who understands our kind." Carol paled. "The Voidfang Supreme Matriarch is coming here. Now." "This is unprecedented," one of the other Voidfangs spoke for the first time. "No matriarch has left Noctis Prime in 1,000 years." John's communication device buzzed. It was Greg Patterson from Earth Intelligence. "Ambassador Miller." Greg's voice was tense. "We've found something in the classified archives. Ancient cave paintings from Earth, over 30,000 years old. They show figures that look remarkably like Voidfangs," John finished, looking at Christ's reptilian form. Christ's yellow eyes widened slightly. "The remembering begins. The cycle returns." "What cycle?" John asked. Before Christ could answer, the station shuddered as the massive Voidfang ship docked. "The matriarch will explain," Christ said. "She has waited many human lifetimes for this meeting." The human-shipped Starway approached the dark planet of Noctis Prime. Ambassador Lisa Clark stood at the viewing window, watching the forbidding world grow larger. The planet was mostly black rock and deep blue oceans under heavy cloud cover. "No non-Voidfang has ever been invited here and returned alive," said Alan Murphy, the team's xenobiologist. He adjusted the settings on his scanner. "Their atmosphere has higher sulfur content than ours, but our breathing masks should handle it." Lisa nodded. After the Supreme Matriarch's visit to Station Alpha 2 weeks ago, everything had changed. The Voidfangs, previously the most feared and isolated species in the galaxy, had suddenly extended an official invitation to Earth. "Ambassador, we're being scanned," reported Olivia Garcia from the security station. Her hands moved quickly over the controls. "A lot of ships out there. At least 30 Voidfang battle cruisers. Are they targeting weapons?" Lisa asked. "No." Olivia sounded surprised. "They're repositioning. I think they're forming an honor guard." The ship's communication system crackled. A deep voice, speaking perfect English, came through. "Human vessel Starway. This is Central Command of Noctis Prime. Follow the transmitted flight path. The Supreme Matriarch awaits your arrival." Alan looked up from his scanner. "Did you hear that? No translation errors. They've studied our language in detail." The Starway followed the designated path, descending through dark storm clouds. When they broke through, the landscape below took everyone's breath away. Vast cities sprawled across the black plains. Buildings rose like massive teeth from the ground, some reaching kilometers into the sky. Between the cities, giant agricultural structures glowed with eerie blue light. "Their civilization is far more advanced than our briefing suggested," Lisa said. The ship landed on a large platform connected to a palace-like structure. As the team prepared to exit, Lisa addressed her small crew. "Remember, we represent all of humanity here. This is a historic moment. First official human delegation to Noctis Prime." When the airlock opened, they stepped out wearing light-breathing masks. A line of massive voidfangs stood at attention, their scales gleaming in the dim light of the planet's small sun. At the end of the line stood the tallest voidfang they had seen yet, nearly 9 feet tall with elaborate patterns etched into her scales and a crown-like crest that extended majestically around her head. "The Supreme Matriarch," whispered Alan. The giant predator approached Lisa. The humans fought their instinctive urge to back away. "Ambassador Clark." The matriarch's voice was deep but feminine. "Welcome to our home. For 50,000 years, no species has been welcomed here. You are the first." Lisa bowed respectfully. "The honor is ours, Supreme Matriarch. We come in friendship." The matriarch made a gesture, and the entire line of voidfangs bent forward in what appeared to be a bow. "Come," said the matriarch. "There is much to show you." Inside the vast palace, they were led through corridors large enough for ships to fly through. The walls were covered with ancient markings and what looked like historical scenes. Alan stopped suddenly, pointing to one wall. "Look at this." The team gathered around. The carving showed small bipedal figures that looked unmistakably human, standing next to what appeared to be wolves. Watching them from above were unmistakable voidfang forms. "This carving is from before your species even built cities," the matriarch said. "We have watched your kind for a very long time." "But why?" Lisa asked. The matriarch touched the carving with one clawed hand. "Because you did something no species in our known galaxy has ever done. You turned predators into friends." She turned her yellow eyes to Lisa. "We need to show you our most sacred archive. It will explain everything." As they walked deeper into the massive structure, Alan whispered to Lisa, "I think I know what's happening. Something in human scent or behavior triggers a response in their brains. We might have been connected long before we knew it." The matriarch stopped before a massive door covered in ancient symbols. "Beyond this door lies the truth of our shared history." The massive doors slid open without a sound. Inside was a large circular room with a glowing blue floor. The walls were covered with what looked like moving images, ancient recordings preserved somehow in the strange technology of the Voidfangs. "This is our memory chamber," the Supreme Matriarch said. "Here we keep the most important moments of our history." Lisa, Alan, and Olivia stepped into the room, their breathing masks filtering the sulfur-rich air. The door closed behind them. "Show Earth record," the matriarch commanded. The room darkened. Then the floor and walls lit up with three-dimensional images of a familiar blue planet, Earth, but different. The continents were slightly out of position. The ice caps were much larger. "This was your world, 50,000 Earth years ago, the matriarch explained. Our scout ships founded during our great expansion. The images shifted to show primitive humans living in small groups, wearing animal skins, and using stone tools. We found your ancestors primitive but intriguing, she continued. We had discovered thousands of species across many star systems. Most either ran from predators or fought them. But your kind did something we had never seen. The scene changed to show early humans sitting around fires with wolves nearby. Over a series of images, the wolves moved closer, eventually taking food from human hands. You befriended predators, the matriarch said, her voice filled with wonder. Animals that could have killed you became your companions. This concept was revolutionary to us. Alan studied the images carefully. Your people were observing our early development of animal domestication, the start of the human-dog relationship. Yes, the matriarch clicked her claws together. In all our explorations, we had never seen a species that could form bonds with natural enemies. It challenged everything we understood about the natural order. The scene shifted again, now showing Voidfang observers watching human settlements from hiding. Normally, when we found promising worlds, we conquered them, the matriarch said. But our scientists convinced the leadership to leave your planet untouched, to watch and learn. Lisa gasped as new images appeared. A human child, thousands of years ago, reaching out fearlessly to touch a Voidfang that had revealed itself. There were occasional direct contacts, the matriarch explained. Your kind rarely showed the fear other species did. Even your young ones approached us with curiosity instead of terror. We found this fascinating. Olivia pointed to a new image. Is that why your people appear in so many ancient Earth legends? Dragons, reptilian gods? Yes, we became part of your stories, and you became part of ours. The final image showed Voidfangs in what appeared to be a heated debate. 10,000 years ago, we decided to withdraw completely from your world, the matriarch said. Some believed we should guide your development. Others thought we should conquer. The final decision was to let your species develop naturally, without interference. The lights came back on. The matriarch touched a wall panel, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside was a simple stone carving, a human hand, and a Voidfang claw side by side. This is our most sacred relic, she said. Our reminder that somewhere among the stars was a species unlike any other, one that could see beyond natural enemies to find allies. Alan nodded, understanding dawning on his face. That's why Ambassador Miller's touch had such an impact. It awakened genetic memory. Your species has been waiting for us to reach the stars. Yes, the matriarch confirmed. For centuries, our astronomers watched your civilization grow, waiting for the day you would join the galactic community. When your ambassador scratched Christ's crest, a gesture only family would perform, it confirmed what we had hoped. Humans still possess the quality that fascinated us so long ago. Lisa looked at the ancient carving. And now, what does this mean for our species going forward? The matriarch's expression turned grave. It means everything. Because not everyone in the galaxy is pleased by our reunion. Even now, some fear what our species might accomplish together. Commander Richard Evans stood at the monitoring station on Frontier's Edge, the newest human colony near the border of Council space. The holographic display showed unusual movement patterns among the ships of several Council races. That's the third Dracorian warship this week, Richard said, pointing to a red dot moving along the outer defense perimeter. They're not even trying to hide their presence anymore. His communications officer looked up from her station. Commander, we're picking up encrypted transmissions between the Dracorian fleet and the Merzat collective ships in Sector 4. Richard frowned. The Dracorians and Merzats were traditional enemies. Their cooperation suggested something serious was happening. Get me intelligence specialist Kelly Williams, he ordered. Minutes later, Kelly's face appeared on the main screen. Her expression was grim. Commander Evans, I was about to contact you, she said. We've intercepted and decoded some disturbing communications. Several Council species are mobilizing their fleets. They're calling it Operation Predator Control. Richard felt a chill run down his spine. Target: Earth and Noctis Prime. A preemptive strike against what they're calling the Predator Alliance. That's insane, Richard said. We've only just established diplomatic relations with the Voidfangs. Kelly nodded. Fear is driving this. The xenophobic factions in the Council have been spreading rumors that humans and Voidfangs are planning to dominate the galaxy together. The official diplomatic visit to Noctis Prime has only fueled their paranoia. Richard studied the fleet movements on his display. How much time do we have? 3 days, maybe 4. They're gathering forces near the Cygnus Passage. Once assembled, they'll be 8 hours from Earth. Alert Earth Command and send warnings to our delegation on Noctis Prime, Richard ordered. We need to prepare our defenses immediately. On Noctis Prime, the situation was growing tense. The human delegation had been moved to secure quarters deep within the palace complex. Ambassador Lisa Clark was in emergency talks with the Voidfang leadership. Our intelligence confirms yours, the Supreme Matriarch said. A coalition of Council species is preparing to attack both our worlds. We need to call for an emergency Council session, Lisa suggested. We can explain the misunderstanding before this escalates further. The time for talk has ended, growled a large Voidfang general. We should strike first, show our combined strength. The matriarch silenced him with a gesture. Violence has always been our first response. Perhaps it is time to try the human way. A communication screen activated, showing diplomat Susan Baker from Earth Command. Ambassador Clark, we've received your reports, Susan said. Earth is on high alert, but our fleet is no match for the combined Council forces. The Voidfang fleet is yours to command, the matriarch said suddenly. Every Voidfang in the room turned to her in shock. For the first time in our history, we will fight not for conquest, but in defense of another species. Susan's eyes widened. We're grateful, Supreme Matriarch, but even combined, we may not have enough ships. Numbers are not everything in war, the matriarch replied. We have something more important. Understanding between our species that the Council races cannot comprehend. Lisa looked at the tactical display showing the gathering enemy fleet. We need to buy time. If we can demonstrate to the Council why our relationship isn't threatening. I may have an idea, Susan said. We have a specialist named Paul Adams who just arrived at the Galactic Council. He's not a traditional diplomat. He's a veterinarian who studied interspecies bonding. If we can get him a platform at the emergency session. The matriarch's yellow eyes gleamed. Yes, show them what makes humans special. While you pursue peace, we will prepare for war. She touched a control panel, and the room filled with a holographic display of the entire Voidfang battle fleet. Hundreds of powerful ships ready for combat. The fleet has already been mobilized, she said. For 50,000 years, we watched humanity grow. We will not watch you fall. The emergency council chamber was filled to capacity. Representatives from over 200 species sat in tense silence as accusations flew back and forth. The human Voidfang alliance threatens the balance of power in the galaxy, shouted the Dracorian delegate, pounding his armored fist on the podium. Their combined forces must be neutralized before they can strike. Paul Adams watched from the side of the chamber, a small travel carrier by his feet. The veterinarian-turned-diplomat had never imagined he would be at the center of an interstellar crisis. Yet here he was, Earth's last hope for peace. The coalition fleet is already assembled, continued the Dracorian. We demand Council approval for immediate military action against Earth and Noctis Prime. Murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. Paul glanced at his communication device. A message from Susan Baker read, "Now or never." Paul stepped forward. "I request permission to address the Council." The speaker looked down at him. The human delegate is recognized. Paul took a deep breath and walked to the center of the chamber. Distinguished representatives of the Galactic Council, I am not a politician or military leader. Until 2 weeks ago, I was a veterinarian on Earth. Confused whispers filled the room. You send an animal doctor to address us during this crisis. The Merzat delegate scoffed. This proves humans do not take the council seriously. On the contrary, Paul replied calmly. I am here precisely because of my expertise with animals. He set the carrier on the floor and opened it. A small tabby cat walked out, stretching lazily. The council chamber erupted in confusion. What is the meaning of this? Demanded the speaker. This is Whiskers, my cat, Paul explained. A domestic companion animal from Earth. Her ancestors were wild predators that hunted and killed for food. Today, she sleeps on my bed. Paul picked up Whiskers, who began to purr loudly. Humanity's greatest evolutionary advantage isn't our technology or our intelligence. It's our ability to form bonds with other species, even predatory ones. He activated a holographic display showing Earth's history of animal domestication. Wolves becoming dogs, wild cats becoming pets, horses carrying humans across continents. This domestic cat shares 96% of its DNA with its wild predator ancestors, Paul continued. Yet through thousands of years of mutual relationship, we transformed potential threats into beloved companions. The chamber had gone silent, all eyes fixed on the small cat purring in Paul's arms. When Ambassador Miller petted the Voidfang delegate, he wasn't being reckless. He was demonstrating humanity's most unique trait, the ability to see past natural fear to form connections. The Voidfang ambassador, Christ, stepped forward. The human speaks truth. Our species has observed this ability in humans for 50,000 years. It is why we watch them instead of conquering their world. They showed us a different path than domination. A holographic message appeared in the center of the chamber, a live feed from the border of Council space. The combined human Voidfang fleet had intercepted the coalition forces, but had not engaged. Our ships are in defensive positions only, Christ said. We do not seek war. We seek understanding. Paul set Whiskers down, and the cat wandered toward the Dracorian delegate, rubbing against his armored leg. To everyone's surprise, the fierce warrior reached down hesitantly and touched the cat's head. Whiskers leaned into the touch, purring. This is what we offer the galaxy, Paul said quietly. Not conquest, but connection. The ability to turn ancient enemies into allies. The council xenopsychologists were frantically taking notes. One stood up excitedly. This explains everything about human behavior. Their diplomatic success, their cultural adaptability. They evolved as a species that forms emotional bonds with predators. The speaker looked thoughtful. A skill no other council species possesses, and a skill the galaxy desperately needs, Paul added. Instead of fearing our connection with the Voidfangs, you should be asking how this connection might benefit everyone. The Dracorian delegate looked from the purring cat to the waiting fleets on the display. For the first time in council history, the vote to authorize military action failed. 1 month after the failed vote for military action, the Grand Council chamber looked very different. The tiered seating had been rearranged. Where once species sat grouped by alliances and power blocks, now they were mixed together. At the center of it all, a new shared platform held both human and Voidfang representatives. Ambassador Nicole Mitchell stood at the podium, looking out at the gathered delegates. Behind her stood the Supreme Matriarch, towering but peaceful in her ceremonial armor. Today marks a historic moment, Nicole began. The full evidence of the conspiracy to push our species into war has been presented to all council members. On large screens around the chamber, faces of the conspiracy leaders appeared. The former Dracorian war minister, 3 Merzat fleet commanders, and several council officials who had secretly pushed for the attack. These individuals acted without the knowledge of their governments, Nicole continued. Their fear of our growing relationship with the Voidfangs led them to desperate measures. Cultural attaché Eric Thompson stepped forward next to Nicole. At his side walked a juvenile Voidfang, smaller than the adults but still impressive with its gleaming black scales. Fear comes from misunderstanding, Eric said, and misunderstanding can be overcome through education. He held up a small device. The young Voidfang immediately sat down, its yellow eyes focused on Eric. This is Suvith, hatched only 6 months ago, Eric explained. Using the same positive reinforcement techniques we've used with Earth dogs for thousands of years, we've been working together daily. Eric pressed the device, which made a soft clicking sound. He offered the young Voidfang a small piece of meat, which it took gently from his hand. A shocked murmur went through the council chamber. Even some Voidfangs watched in amazement. Impossible, whispered one delegate. Voidfang young are untamable. Eric continued through a series of commands: sit, stand, turn, bow. Each time, the young Voidfang responded perfectly, receiving a click and a reward. What you're witnessing isn't just training, Nickel explained. It's communication, building trust, creating understanding between different species. The Supreme Matriarch stepped forward. For millennia, my kind dominated through fear. We believed this was the only way. Humans have shown us another path: cooperation instead of conquest. Nickel activated another display, showing images from Earth. People with their pets, farmers with livestock, wildlife researchers working with wild animals. Throughout our evolution, humans learned that working with other species creates more possibilities than working against them, she said. Now we offer this perspective to the galaxy. The council speaker rose from his seat. The events of recent weeks have forced us to reconsider many long-held beliefs. The council has voted to create a new position within our governing structure: interspecies mediators. A formal document appeared on the screens, an amendment to the Galactic Constitution. By unanimous vote, humans have been designated as official interspecies mediators for the council, the speaker announced. Their unique ability to bridge differences between predator and prey species will help us build a more united galaxy. At the back of the chamber, John Miller watched with amazement. Just months ago, he had been a new ambassador making what he thought was a terrible mistake. Now that simple gesture of petting a feared predator had changed galactic politics forever. The Supreme Matriarch turned to the audience, her voice carrying throughout the chamber. Let this be remembered as the beginning of a new age. For too long, the galaxy has been divided between predator and prey, between hunter and hunted. Today, we start a different journey, together. As the council erupted in applause, Eric's young Voidfang companion surprised everyone by walking to a nervous-looking Merzat delegate and gently nuzzling his hand. After a moment's hesitation, the delegate cautiously patted the Voidfang's crest. Nickel smiled at John across the chamber. Who would have thought that humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization would be something as simple as teaching others how to make friends?